Not every artist needs a viral moment or explosive debut to reach stardom. Some stars build their careers slowly. In this video, we'll look at 8 artists that quietly rose to stardom. The Weeknd. The Weeknd's journey to superstardom began with mystery. In 2010, Abel Tesfaye uploaded 3 anonymous songs to YouTube under the name The Weeknd. The haunting sound, a blend of R&B and dark pop, became an underground sensation. Without showing his face or giving interviews, he followed up in 2011 with a trilogy of free mixtapes, House of Balloons, Thursday, and Echoes of Silence, that got critical acclaim on music blogs and forums. Critics liked his boundary-pushing production, and his underground mystique only grew. By the time he compiled those tapes into 2012's trilogy, The Weeknd had already built a cult fanbase without radio hits or flashy promotion. His transition to mainstream stardom was gradual but undeniable. He collaborated with artists like Drake early on, and his debut studio album Kissland was more experimental than commercial. But with 2015's Beauty Behind the Madness, which featured smash hits like Can't Feel My Face and The Hills, The Weeknd finally crossed over on his own terms. The album went 3 times platinum in the US and won him his first Grammy. Today, he is one of the most streamed artists globally, with Starboy and After Hours showcasing his full transformation into an old-time pop megastar. His song Blinding Lights is still the most streamed song in Spotify history, but his rise never felt forced, as it was a slow burn, especially early on. SZA. SZA's path to success was unconventional. Lana Rose started releasing music on SoundCloud in the early 2010s, experimenting with lo-fi beats and free-flowing lyrics. Her early projects built an underground fanbase and caught the attention of Top Dog Entertainment, the hip-hop label home to Kendrick Lamar and Schoolboy Q. Her 2014 EP Z marked her first official release under TDE, growing her alternative R&B fanbase. Despite her talent, she remained a hidden gem for years. That changed with the release of her debut album Control in 2017, which was both a critical and commercial breakthrough. Though she didn't rely on radio-friendly formulas, SZA's deeply personal lyrics about love, insecurity, and identity resonated with a wide audience. Songs like Love Galore, The Weeknd, and Broken Clocks slowly climbed in popularity, driven by word of mouth. The album eventually became a modern classic. Control was nominated for 5 Grammys and went 3 times platinum in the US, a slow-burning success that positioned her as a generational force in R&B. SZA's sophomore album SOS, released in 2022, confirmed what fans already knew. She wasn't just a niche artist anymore, she was a superstar. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and spent 13 weeks at the top, becoming one of the longest-running #1 female R&B albums in history. Songs like Kill Bill and Snooze became huge hits and were embraced by both fans and radio. SZA's distinct artistic identity, nurtured quietly over a decade, made her rise to stardom so impactful. Phoebe Bridgers. Phoebe Bridgers' ascent in the music world wasn't immediate, but when it came, it felt deserved. After years of writing, recording demos, and performing at small venues, she released her debut album Stranger in the Alps in 2017 to critical acclaim. The album's hushed production and emotionally raw lyrics on songs like Motion Sickness quietly resonated with listeners, helping her build a loyal fanbase. Though not a mainstream hit, the album was a critic's favorite, who praised her ability to tell devastating stories on beautiful production. Her profile continued to grow because of authentic collaborations. As a member of the groups Boy Genius and Better Oblivion Community Center, she expanded her indie credibility. But it was her 2020 sophomore album Punisher that cemented her as a generational voice. Released during the pandemic, the album pushed her into broader public consciousness. It earned her 4 Grammy nominations, including Best New Artist and Best Alternative Music Album. Despite not at all being commercial, Phoebe's rise is a testament to the power of consistency. She didn't storm the charts or rely on viral gimmicks. She simply released good music and let the art speak for itself. She has now become one of the most important voices of her era. Lana Del Rey. When Lana Del Rey first emerged into the public eye with 2011's Video Games, the response was polarizing. Critics questioned her authenticity and chart presence, but what they didn't expect at the time was that she was building one of the longest running careers in the modern age. Her debut major label album Born to Die in 2012 debuted on number 2 on the Billboard 200 and became one of the best-selling albums of the decade, eventually spending over 400 weeks on the charts and earning 8 million units globally. Rather than chase chart-topping hits, she defined her own sound with a moody vibe, cinematic aesthetics, and a nonchalant vocal delivery. Albums like Ultraviolence in 2014 and Honeymoon in 2015 didn't dominate radio, but they solidified her cult following. Her 2019 album Norman fucking Rockwell earned widespread critical acclaim, including a Grammy nomination for Album of the Year. By the time she released Did You Know There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard in 2023, Lana Del Rey had become a legend and one of pop's most respected artists. Without relying on mainstream radio or traditional pop formulas, she has maintained steady commercial success, getting 7 top 10 albums in the US while shaping the aesthetic of an entire generation of alt-pop artists. Her stardom wasn't loud or immediate, but it was iconic. Noah Kahan. Noah Kahan's rise to stardom wasn't instantaneous. In fact, it took nearly a decade. After signing a major label deal in his late teens and releasing a string of promising singles like Youngblood in 2017, he was seen as just another indie pop hopeful. His debut album Busyhead in 2019 received modest attention, but it didn't break through commercially. For a while, it looked like he might fade into obscurity, but behind the scenes, he was quietly building a fan base that would blow him up a few years later. The turning point came with 2022's Stick Season, a folk pop album rooted in storytelling, emotional and acoustic sounds. The title track, released coming out of the pandemic, slowly gained traction on TikTok, becoming his breakthrough hit because of his relatable themes of isolation and nostalgia. The album became a sleeper hit, eventually landing in the top 10 of the Billboard 200 and going 2 times platinum in the US. He had secured major festival slots, a sold-out tour, and collaborations with artists like Post Malone and Hozier. Today, he is regarded as one of the most successful artists in modern folk pop. His success wasn't built on massive radio singles, just low-key songs that connected with his fan base. With over 9.4 billion total Spotify streams, and Stick Season becoming one of the best-selling albums in the US since its release, his slow rise to stardom shows the blueprint for artists that don't like the limelight. Tali Uchis. Tali Uchis began her career with a unique mix of R&B, soul, and Latin influences, quietly building her reputation. Her 2015 project, Por Vida, drew attention from critics because of its dreamy production. Though it was not a commercial blockbuster, it laid the groundwork. She collaborated early with artists like Tyler the Creator and Gorillaz, being featured on Tyler's biggest hit, See You Again, which has now reached 2.5 billion Spotify streams. Her 2018 debut album, Isolation, received critical acclaim, but modest commercial attention. It was praised for blending funk, R&B, and reggaeton, and appeared on several year-end best album lists. But it wasn't until Sin Miedo in 2020, which included the viral hit Telepatia, that Kylie became a household name. Telepatia organically blew up on TikTok months after its release, eventually earning over 1.4 billion Spotify streams, landing her on major award show stages. What makes Kylie's rise remarkable is how low-key it's been. She didn't chase the mainstream came to her. She now moves fluidly between English and Spanish language projects, with a loyal fan base that embraces her artistic risks. Mitski. Mitski's journey to stardom has been anything but conventional. She released her first 2 albums, Lush in 2012, and retired from SAD new career in business in 2013 while studying music composition. They garnered little mainstream attention. It wasn't until 2016's Puberty 2 that her sound began catching fire in indie circles. Critics liked her vulnerability, and her fan base grew quietly. Her 2018 album Be the Cowboy marked a major shift. Songs like Nobody and Washing Machine Heart became indie anthems, while the album appeared on Best of the Decade lists. But Mitski remains something of an enigma, media shy and reluctant to embrace celebrity. She then took a hiatus, and that only deepened her cult status as her fan base grew during her absence. When she returned with Laurel Hell in 2022, she charted on the Billboard 200 and began selling out arenas. In 2023, Mitski got to a whole new level when her song My Love, Mine All Mine went viral on TikTok and became a global hit, accumulating 1.6 billion Spotify streams. The song introduced her to a mainstream audience. She rose not with flash but with substance, a slow-burning legacy built on good music. Mitski didn't chase stardom, it quietly found her. Russ. Russ is the epitome of the independent grind. After releasing a lot of self-produced, self-mixed and self-released tracks online, weekly on SoundCloud, he began to develop a following around 2014. His breakthrough came slowly, as tracks like What They Want and Losing Control began gaining traction without label backing, but he had already laid the groundwork himself. His debut studio album There's a Wolf went platinum despite little radio or playlist support. It spawned multiple hits, was entirely self-produced, and stayed on the Billboard 200 for over a year. Russ continued to chart albums and packed venues, even as the mainstream media ignored him. Critics often downplayed him, but his fans stayed loyal, drawn to his message of independence and self-belief. Russ sells out arenas around the world, has built a vast catalog of music independently, and retained creative control over his brand. His ability to succeed outside of traditional label systems makes him a blueprint for modern independent artists. His stardom didn't arrive with one massive hit. It was quietly built through persistence. Which artists that quietly rose to stardom did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.